It feels like home, home, home. It feels like home, home, home. It feels like home.
Hey there, welcome to Weldon Home. Today we've got a lot going on. We're celebrating Johnny's birthday tonight with just some friends, and in the meantime, he and his dad are going to get started on our Mercedes. Actually, it's his Mercedes, and people are afraid to drive Mercedes because they're worried about the work that they have to do on them. But we don't drive anything other than Mercedes because I have this guy, and he's teaching my son how to do work on Mercedes as well. So, on to you.
So today's just basic maintenance. We're going to switch out his serpentine belt, and while we're doing that, we're going to go ahead and replace his guide pulley and his tensioner. So we went on Amazon and got all those. I think we got a Gates belt, so we got a decent belt, and these are probably aftermarket Chinese, but you get what you get. And it's just time. This car has 170,000 miles. So it's time to do it. The belt looks a little bit crusty, and his guide pulley is missing a bunch of the front here. Somebody broke it off. So, Paul, why don't you bring that over here, and I'm going to go ahead and get started on this. So, let me grab a screwdriver. Come look in here, Paul. Here's the tensioner belt right here. We're going to change his serpentine right here. This is the one we're going to change, and you can see it's kind of worn around the edges, and it's starting to get a little crusty. They'll start cracking up here, and if you see cracks in yours, certainly replace it, because this thing controls everything in the car. The air conditioner, the alternator, the water pump, everything in the car pretty much runs off this. Your power steering. So without this belt, your car will not only overheat, but you won't be able to steer very well, and you won't have air conditioning, and you won't get any electricity either. So your battery will run out quickly. This is the little pulley, and you can see how somebody chipped that all up. It's probably just old, but we got a new little pulley for it, and that's just got a little dust cover right here. I'm going to just pop that off with a screwdriver, no problems. So that just covers the bearings so that they don't get any dirt in there. And we'll keep that and put it on our new one. Next thing we do is we got to loosen this belt. You could just take a knife and cut it, but I'm not going to until we make sure that our new belt is the right size, because if we have to, we'll put the old belt back on and make sure that we got the right belt. So I'm not going to cut anything. But what we need to do is look at our tensioner, which is right here. Look down in here, Paul. This is the tensioner. Here's our new one, and so I'm going to look at that one, and it looks like it sits like this. And this right here is where you loosen that tensioner. So we're going to go ahead. I know I was playing with a hoe yesterday and got myself a blister. So this we're going to hook a nut to, and I'll probably use a long breaker bar to do that, because these tensioners have a lot of pressure. That thing right there has got a spring in it that keeps this belt tight. It's the only thing that keeps this belt tight. So that thing right there is keeping the whole belt tight on the system. And whenever I switch the serpentine, if it's been a bunch of miles, which this one has been a bunch of miles, I'll go ahead and switch out the tensioners. And I usually look at the guide pulley. Most of them aren't as bad as poor John's, but this car's seen better days. As you see, John, we got John this car, and it was very cheap. I think we only gave $1,100 for it. It had a couple little problems, nothing major. It had some rust problems because it's from Virginia, and a lot of cars from Virginia, because they salt the roads, have rust problems. But we fixed most of those, and then he got into a wreck. He rear-ended somebody in the rain, because he wasn't thinking, hey, the rain's going to slow me down. Slow down my ability to stop. So what we want to do is we want to find out what size this is. It's like a 17 to me if I had to take a guess. Let's see if I can find a 17. 19? 17 right here. That's the ticket. So we'll put a 17 on there, put it on our breaker bar, and I'm going to reach down here and feel underneath this one and see if I can, yep, it's right there. And we're just going to put that 17 on here. There it is. Get on there, you. Okay, once it's on there, see how when I turn that thing, it loosens it up? I'm going to go ahead and move it over one notch, Paul.
So there you're just playing with the spring, right?
It doesn't want to let me do that. Well, we'll just do this.
When you twist out that.
So now that decompresses that spring, and we might want to just, John, you got your camera on you?
You mean my flashlight?
Your phone? Just take a picture of how this belt looks before I yank it off.
Okay.
Just take a picture. It goes just straight down in there. Take a picture. Yep. That way we'll know how to wrap the new one. A lot of times, if somewhere on the car there'll be a picture of how to wrap the Serpentine, but this car's kind of old and it probably fell off. It was probably a sticker or something. All right, off she comes. So once we get that loose, watch what happens. This whole thing's gonna really want to move. Okay, and off she goes. And here comes our Serpentine belt. Just like that. Sometimes these things are wrapped around stupid fans. This one, thank goodness, is not. Because this fan's got an electric fan right here, and it's not wrapped around it, which I appreciate. That's it. Let's hold it up to the other one and just make sure we got the right thing. It looks the same to me, and as you can see, the other one's just a tiny bit smaller, which makes sense because it hasn't been stretched out yet. As these things get old, they'll start stretching out. Let's look at this and see how bad it was. It's not too bad. Somebody probably changed this Serpentine not super long ago, but I didn't like all the discoloration here. That's just from rust and stuff, because this car has had worse days. So since this one's not so bad, we'll probably fold it up and keep it in the trunk, because having an extra one of these next to your spare tire, great idea, because like I said, that belt breaks, you're stranded. You're stranded. And so having an extra Serpentine belt, you can get back on the road if you have to. All right. So, now that we got that off, we've got two things we're going to replace here. We're going to replace this guy. It looks like it's a star bit. That's typical of Mercedes. They'll put a star bit in there. And we got to replace this guy. And it looks like an inverse star bit. So, let me grab those tools. So this ended up being a 50 T50. So we're going to set that in there and just loosen this up. There it goes. Once it's loose, it should just come out pretty easy. Yep. So I'm going to go ahead and unscrew that, and we'll put on our new one. John, you want to hand me that new pulley?
Yeah.
So, we're just going to swap out this guide pulley with the new one. And this one is pretty toasty. We'll check it and make sure it looks the same before we throw it on there. But it's probably the same. When I'm buying stuff like that on Amazon, I always make sure I read all the reviews to make sure that people liked it and it didn't break in the first 5 minutes. Look at this. See, it's starting to crack around here. This one had just about had it. Breaking all in here. This might have been original to the car. 170,000 miles, it was time for another one. All right. So people think, oh, Mercedes is so expensive, but getting this part wasn't expensive. I think total for fixing the whole thing today in parts, the Serpentine belt was $20. That was the most expensive. That little pulley was $10, and our tightener was, it might have been $15 or $18. It was.
You told me it ended up being about $60.
$60 total. So we ended up with about $60 total in this thing, which is pretty cheap to change out your Serpentine belt and change out all your pulleys and stuff, because I'm sure if you went to the dealer they would get you. But you can see this is exactly the same as working on an American car. And there it is. Looks good. It's not too tight, not too loose.
Well.
Spinning like butter. We're going to go ahead and put that little dust cover back on, because that'll just keep muck and dirt from getting back in this thing. There we go. Might need to tap that with a little hammer or something. I don't know how tight, how much it's supposed to be in there or not. That's better. All right. She's in there good. Now we got to take out that last part. What size did I tell you that was called? This guy. This is a T10. No, it's T12. An E12, which is the inverse of that. So it's the stars on the inside instead of coming out. And that's going to be for pulling off this tensioner. So let's grab our new tensioner. Here it is. Let's see if we can see where these go. It sits like this. So there's going to be one right there, which I can see, and there's going to be one underneath, which I can't see right now. Hopefully we won't have to try to
get it from below.
Let me see if I can even get to it right now. Nope. So part of the problem is that this thing's in the way. So I'm going to have John hook this thing to our pull bar, and we'll pull this back out of the way, and that way I can get to that final screw. I'm going to need a little extension. All right, so we got another little extension on there. John, let's hook you up first. I think that thing was standing about straight up. And it finally got loose. Yep. Okay, so here, you take this and just pull it all the way over there like that. And don't drop it, because you'll crunch your dad's fingers. That would be bad. I'm going to go ahead and take a look and make sure I can see what I'm doing. It looks like it's down. I don't know if you can see it. It's that one right there. See it down in there? That's the guy we're trying to get. So once I loosen him, then we'll have John let go, and I'll go ahead and loosen that guy. Well, we got to start with him. So, we set him on there. There he is. And it popped. And so I'm just going to loosen this guy on up. Once it's out of there, this whole thing might shift on us a little bit. But I doubt it, because it's actually in a little socket that holds the whole thing together. It's not loosening up much, so we're probably binding a hair. And it's always hard to tell how long these bolts are. Some of them go way back into the engine block. That feels like it's loose. Don't let go, John boy. Nope, not super long. So here's a screw that came out. We're going to just put this somewhere where we don't lose it. How about right up there? Yep, that looks good. All right, John, you can let her loose. Real gentle. Yep. Handy to have two people sometimes, isn't it? All right, one more screw, and then that thing comes out, and we'll put the new one in. Bit tight. This one probably won't be as tight the whole way, because it won't be binding, because nobody's pulling on it. Still feels kind of tight. They might put Loctite on those, I don't know. We're not going to. I have some, but I'm not a huge fan of Loctite if you can keep from using it. Alright. It feels like I can move it with my fingers. So let's use my fingers. Almost, almost, almost. And we've got two screws. They're exactly the same size, so we don't have to worry about which one's which. Here's our one that came out. And once again, look at all the rust and trouble with this. This is old. It was time. It's still spinning good. That's good. Let's grab our new one.
Right here.
Now, they give these things a little pin in them. Right here. so that you don't have to have John pulling on it to get it to stay in one position. So I'm going to just go ahead and set this guy in there and then screw both sides in, and then I'll put the belt on, make sure that we go underneath this pin, and then grab that with a set of vice grips and just jimmy it, and it should just slide out of there, and when it does, this whole thing will go snap, and the spring inside it will start working. So let me see if I can get that thing back where it goes. Maybe? Yes. Alright. This guy just sits just like that. And I need, John, you hold this for me? Yep. And I need this and this. And we're going to slide this back in. Alright, I got one started. I'm going to go ahead and start the other one before I tighten up anything, so that we're don't tighten it all up with it lined up wrong. That feels like it might have started. Yep. Alright. That one definitely started. We're going to go ahead and put this on the thing because, like I said, it feels like it's got a little Loctite or something stuck to this. Right. Alright, here we go. Yep, I'm not turning too hard. If this thing was turning hard, I would stop and back it out again and make sure that we're not stripping threads. Once you strip those threads, you're going to be a sad person. John, we're going to need that serpentine belt that's over there, the new one.
Yep, I got it over here.
Alright. And we're going to need to thread it the exact right way. It looked to me like the hardest part to go around was the compressor, so we'll probably start down there. Getting close. Alright, we're almost to where it's going to be tight, so I'm going to go ahead and tighten up this other one first. A lot of people would have automatic ratchets and everything, which I have a little air ratchet, but on a little job like this, pulling out all my air stuff, it's easier just to do it by hand. Alright, just about tight. Oh, that one's tight. Let's check that bottom. Right there. Alright. So everybody's on, which means it's time to hook in our belt. So like I said, this one's really easy because it doesn't have the fan in the way. And a lot of times they got those fans in the way, which is a drag. Okay, so this is going to come up around our power steering. It's going to go down around our compressor. This is for the air conditioning. You just got to make sure all these things are in the grooves the way they're supposed to be. This guy comes up and around that probably, and then back.
This one I know goes down like this.
Around here. That goes there. And make sure we don't get caught on anybody. Ooh. We might have to hook that thing up to it whether we want it or not, John. Where's that? Where's that breaker bar? And we're going to reach down there. I think we got it right, don't you? I think this comes up and under over that, and that goes around that and around that. Yeah, that seems right to me.
Yep. I'll pull up a picture.
Yep. It's always good to have a picture. You want to make sure it's seated in all the grooves on every single one of these hoops, on every single one of these guys, otherwise you will be sad. Alright, pull that down. That's right. Alright, let her up. Okay, it looks like we're
right
in
on this side.
everybody's groove. Yep, that just, it rides on the back side of it, so it just no grooves to go into.
Oh,
All right.
gotcha.
So it's all switched out, and that's how it's done. We've got a new tensioner, we've got a new pulley, and we've got a new serpentine belt. Give her a start, John, and let's make sure she starts up and that it's running good. Pulse. Don't get too close, because if that belt's wrong, it can snap. And there it is, brand new serpentine belt. Looks like it's running good to me. That part that's a little wobbly right there, that's your engine balancer. John got in a little accident, the guy banged him right here and might have pushed something back into that, so at some point we might have to replace that. It looks like just another pulley to me. Alright. And she's all set. So that's how easy it was. What was that, 20 minutes? We replaced the serpentine belt, we replaced both the pulleys, the tensioner and the pulley, and it cost us $60. And I bet if we went to Mercedes, they would be asking at least $500, maybe $600 to do that nonsense. But that's why we don't go to Mercedes right there. That's it. Y'all have a good day. All right, John boy.